3 seconds to go. Across the timeline. 2 seconds to go. Jenkins, three, right wing to win it. He made it! He made the three from the right wing at the buzzer. Cats win it all! Cats win it all! Cats win it all! 31 years later, Villanova is the king of college basketball once again.
There it is, a fantastic call. That is Ryan Fannon, the play-by-play voice of Villanova Basketball. The Villanova Wildcats are your 2015-2016 NCAA champion, led by that last-second buzzer-beater shot by Chris Jenkins that everyone will remember for a long time. And Ryan Fannon now joins us right now. Ryan, I think I know the answer to this question, but we appreciate a few minutes, and how are you?
I'll tell you what, I'm still just trying to figure out how you can win a national championship at the buzzer against North Carolina. I mean, it's still surreal 24 hours later almost.
It was an unbelievable finish, especially the way that it ended with Paige hitting that acrobatic shot, Oshefu mopping the floor, and then you have Chris Jenkins hitting that big-time shot, and you had a great call. I thought it was the best call out of the 3,000 broadcasts that were there in Houston, but how many times have you listened to that call? Because if I was you, I'd probably be listening to it on a loop.
Yeah, I've had some fun with it. Just in the last hour or so, I sort of was just listening to it over and over again, always trying to figure out, as all broadcasters do, as you know, just always trying to figure out, what could I have done better? Did I give some, real inflection here or there? When you can really just listen to it over and over and over again, as we're always striving to just do the best we can. But but looking back, I just feel that it was just one of those moments of a lifetime for our program to think that Villanova was up 10 points with under 5 minutes to go. And the will of Marcus Paige for Carolina, what a terrific player. I mean, that shot he hit with 4.7 seconds to go that tied the game, he literally willed that in the basket. And then for Villanova, resiliency. This team all year, they've just been able to scrap and claw and do whatever it took. And I actually felt good with 4.7 seconds to go. I knew Arch was getting the ball, and I knew he was either going to shoot it and probably make it or find the open man. And he served up a perfect pass to Jenkins, who drilled the three at the buzzer to win the national championship.
And it doesn't get any better than that as we're talking to Ryan Fannon, the play-by-play voice of Villanova. And that final minute was just something very special. That's got to be the greatest final minute of an NCAA championship game that we've ever seen, Ryan.
I mean, it was incredible. I mean, I'm just thinking back to that final, minute, as you mentioned, and thinking about Josh Hart making 2 free throws with 13 and a half seconds to go, knowing that Carolina had gotten to within 1, and he had to make both of those. And then you go back just with 35 seconds to go when Carolina had also been right there, and Booth had to make 2 free throws to give Villanova, at that point, a 3-point lead. So there was just so much that had to happen for North Carolina to come back, and yet they did it. But Villanova answered the bell. A couple free throws missed down the stretch, but overall it was huge. And I'd have to say, even though, of course, the shot that won it was the biggest, I thought at the 3:05 mark of the game, when Villanova was only up by 3 points after the Joe Barry 3, and Phil Booth answered at the 3:05 mark on a tough left of the lane, maybe around 15-foot shot that put us up 5, 69-64. That was huge, and Booth was huge all night, scoring 20. Wow, he came up huge.
And the best part about a championship game is there's always that unexpected story. When people were previewing this game, I don't know how many people were mentioning the name Booth. What made him so effective in that big spot?
I think it's the confidence that all the players have for our 8-man rotation. Whoever's out there, we're such an unselfish team, and nobody cares who scores. It's just all about what's going to be the best shot for the team, or who's got the hot hand. And I give credit to Jay Wright. Jay Wright did a great job of making sure that Phil Booth stayed on that floor. I mean, Booth played major minutes. Booth played 25 minutes for the game. But, you look back and you say, at halftime, Villanova was in a situation where they were down by 5 points, and wow, did Villanova come out in the second half with just tremendous focus. There's a good story about how Ochefu and Archidiakono, when the coaches were coming in halftime, they asked them to give a couple more minutes just for the seniors to address the players without the coaches in there. And you always hear about things when teams go on for greatness. There's always a moment. Just the fact that the seniors said, guys, I want just a few minutes here with just the teammates without the coaches. You can't script that kind of stuff. This was just meant to be. Carolina was a terrific team. Villanova was a terrific team. But in the end, we just had a little bit more than the Tar Heels.
And you know it better than anyone. This Villanova team was under an enormous amount of pressure, especially how the last few years went, and that's a special scene in that locker room right before half. But what makes this group so special? Because they just went on a tremendous run where they, from the first tip of the tournament to that last whistle, they just dominated this NCAA tournament.
I think I look back to a big moment, I think, that was a learning lesson that put this team finally at a level where they weren't going to even take a breath for 1 minute once they got to the NCAA tournament. And it was in the Big East Championship game at Madison Square Garden against Seton Hall, where the team just didn't quite come out in the first 10 minutes of that game with the focus they needed. And when they looked at the film after that loss, and Josh Hart took that loss real hard, had the turnover, late on the 5-second call. And it was just one of those situations where Jay said to them, guys, look, if we don't play 40 minutes, we cannot have a roll like this, or our season's going to end shorter, and we're not going to go out playing the way we know we're capable of, and that's 40 minutes of Villanova basketball, rebounding, defense, togetherness. And I think the guys said, you know what, we're not going to let that Seton Hall slow start happen again. And their focus for 40 minutes for 6 consecutive games, their attention to detail behind the scenes with the game plan, scouting reports. I mean, this team was so locked in, I can't even explain it.
So that Seton Hall loss was, I guess, the turning point and got this team on this run. And you knew they had a pretty darn good team, being number one in the country throughout times during the year. And you also take a look back at that 85 team as Rolly Massimino pulled the starters in that game up against Pitt. They come back to beat Pitt in the Big East tournament, and you know the rest of the story from there. But Jay, and we've had a lot of guys on this past week, Chuck Everson talked about how Jay Wright just loves that family atmosphere and is very similar to Rolly Massimino from that 85 team. Why is it so important to Jay to connect those Villanova players of the past to this current group? Because that's a close bond they have.
He always talks about, to the current players, play for the ones that came before you. And the players see how Jay Wright treats the former players. I mean, it's incredible to watch this behind the scenes. I mean, any player coming to practices, coming to road games, coming to home games. I mean, I can't imagine an ambassador, a head coach that does a better job in the country of connecting past players back and making them completely part of the program the way Jay does. But see, Jay does that for everybody. Jay has this ability to make everyone feel a part of Villanova basketball. The managers, the fans, the alums, the faculty, everybody, the student body. He just has an incredible ability to make everyone feel incredibly special, and he makes it never about him. He makes it about Villanova. And that's when I think he got so emotional when Ryan Archidiakono and Ochefu kissed the V in their final practice at the Pavilion, because we wanted all these guys to come as high school stars and just play for Villanova, not the name on the back of their jersey, but the name on the front. And wow, did he get this team to buy into that.
You know, he now goes from that good category to great category as a head coach, and his reaction at the end of the game was priceless. Did you get a chance to talk to him about that?
I haven't yet, but I've heard a lot of reaction of just, that's Jay. I mean, he knew that, he had to go over and from a sportsmanship standpoint, go over and talk to Roy Williams and make sure, he took care of that business first. And he has an amazing ability. Whether Villanova wins or loses, he's always just steady. His personality is so consistent. And, he just creates an unbelievable atmosphere with his leadership and just being just a great guy all around that everybody loves. I mean, he is about as genuine as it gets.
We're spending a few more minutes with the play-by-play voice of the national champion Villanova Wildcats, and that is Ryan Fannon. And Ryan, going into this game, there was two big keys. I looked at how UNC was going to defend the lethal three-point shot of Villanova and how Villanova was going to be able to command the post presence that was UNC. Nova got out-rebounded, but they won the battle in the paint from a point perspective. How did Villanova do that?
I think, first of all, when you look at the points in the paint, that really stood out, as you just mentioned, 32 to 26. I think Villanova, even though the glass was won by plus 13 for the Tar Heels, I think Villanova did a great job in this game of going down to Ochefu. He didn't shoot it a lot, but he had 5 shots. He made 4. Villanova took some opportunities to try to get in the lane, make some plays, timely threes. They didn't just settle for threes. I mean, Villanova was highly efficient from three-point range. They were 8 of 14 from three-point range, 57%. Overall, Villanova shot terrific, 58%, 28 of 48 from the floor overall. And again, Villanova, who's been great at the free throw line all year, delivered again at 76.5%. And this team did a great job of taking care of the basketball. Once again, just 10 turnovers in the game on Monday night.
How about Ochefu mopping up his sweat at the end? That was just great.
Oh, I was sitting there with Daniel Ochefu when he was doing that, and I was like, if that doesn't define our team, what does? I mean, that summed it all up.
And you also have another big senior in Ryan Arcidiacono, who just had an incredible internal play clock in his head to make that pass and give Jenkins enough time. I got to see Arcidiacono play in high school, and in a playoff game, he went 17 out of 17 from the charity stripe and poured in 30 points. He's a special player. He's a leader. He's tough. How do you remember Ryan Arcidiacono as his Villanova career is over?
I remember him the most now when I think about it for a couple things. First of all, the senior class won 117 games in 4 years. They're the winningest class in Villanova history. They, as seniors, won a national championship. They won the most games in a single season all time with 35. But his desire to win and the leadership behind the scenes, I mean, this team, you need that. When teams win national championships, I remember Juan Dixon from Maryland back at 2002 and some other teams where they just had a guy like Kemba Walker at UConn in 2011, teams that just had a player where they literally just willed it. You almost felt like we have Arch and you don't. And I know UConn felt we have Kemba, you don't. And Juan Dixon, the same thing. And you could go on and on. Danny Manning back to 1988. It goes on and on. But Arcidiacono, his will to win is off the charts. And I just will never, any guy that just wants to put on that Villanova uniform. His dad played football with Howie Long at Villanova. His mom's a grad. He grew up. When he put on that jersey for the first time as a freshman, it was a lifetime dream to do that. And when you have that kind of intangible, you can't put a price tag on what that means. And we found out what it meant 4 years later now.
Now, before we let you run, as we're talking to Ryan Fannon, your call was just absolutely great, and it went viral as it should. I know Deadspin, they messed up the headline saying you were a student broadcaster, but they picked it up. Jay Wright was talking about it this morning on all the local radio stations. Just what was that Beck's text or call that you received congratulating you about your call?
It was just one of those things where you just, as a broadcaster, you just want to hope that in that one moment of a lifetime, you just get it right. And, all I kept thinking about was just stay with the play. Stay with the play. Don't think about anything else. And, as I called it, as he brought it across the timeline with 3 seconds, 2 seconds, Jenkins right wing, the one wrinkle that I knew I had that I wanted to throw in, to end all the broadcasts when we go off the air at the end of our post-game show if we've won, I always end it with Caps win, Caps win, Caps win. Good night, everybody. But now, 7 years ago in Detroit, when we lost to North Carolina in the Final Four, I said, you know what? If we ever win a national championship in Villanova, I might have to throw in a little wrinkle. So in the back of my mind for the last 7 years, I thought, if we ever do, instead of just Caps win, Caps win, Caps win, I'm going to throw in a little it all and throw in Caps win it all, Caps win it all, Caps win it all. And the fact that I was able to get it out right after that moment, and then I think I said Villanova 31 years later is the king of college basketball. I wouldn't want to try to do it over again is probably what I'm saying. I just thank God that I think it came out pretty decent.
It came out more than decent. Ryan Fannon, we appreciate it. I'm sure you're going to need some rest. Actually, real quickly before we let you run, because you went back with the team. How was that trip back to Philadelphia?
You know, I actually ended up flying back to D.C. where I live in the D.C. area. It's funny because people say to me all the time, you live in Virginia, the D.C. area, but you're the play-by-play guy for Villanova. And I always say, here's the way I describe it. When Villanova's at home, I'm on the road. When Villanova's on the road, I'm on the road. And when Villanova plays Georgetown, the team I want to beat the most, I got a 20-minute commute to the Verizon Center to call the game.
That's excellent. Ryan, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
On Friday, no doubt about it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care, my friend.